Lanterns over Maplewood. The town of Maplewood always seemed to glow when autumn arrived, as if the streets themselves knew how to celebrate the season. Leaves curled into shades of gold, orange, and russet, drifting down to rest on cobblestones that had been there for generations. The air was crisp enough to hint at winter, but still soft enough to invite long walks, bundled sweaters, and conversations that carried the warmth of cinnamon-spiced cider. In this town, where everyone seemed to know everyone else, life moved with the kind of gentle rhythm that gave people space to notice one another's hearts, though many kept their own carefully tucked away. Evelyn Parker had lived in Maplewood for 28 years, long enough to learn that in a small town, stories had a way of clinging to people like ivy on old brick walls. Hers was simple enough. The shy daughter of a teacher and a baker, she had grown into a quiet librarian whose world mostly existed between shelves of books and small, steady routines. People liked her, though they sometimes forgot she was in the room until she spoke, her voice soft but melodic, like a violin's whisper. She found comfort in that invisibility, until the autumn of her 29th year, when someone made her feel seen in a way that unsettled and warmed her all at once. That someone was Daniel Hayes. Daniel had only recently returned to Maplewood after years away. He'd grown up here, but his family moved when he was 16, and for more than a decade he had been little more than a name people remembered from old football games, a faded photograph on a dusty yearbook shelf. When he returned, there were whispers. His father's failing health had drawn him back, though others speculated there was more to the story. He had once been the sort of boy who seemed destined for a bigger world. Tall, charming, the kind who lit up any gathering. Now, at 30, he carried himself differently. His laughter was quieter, his eyes more thoughtful, like someone who'd learned the cost of carrying secrets. Their first meeting happened on a Tuesday, the kind of Tuesday where rain had left the streets damp and the library warm with the scent of drying pages. Evelyn was reshelving returns when she noticed him standing at the circulation desk, scanning the bulletin board where local announcements were pinned. His presence filled the space without trying. He wore a dark green sweater, the color of pine needles, and his hands rested casually in his pockets. When she approached, he turned, and their eyes met in a way that startled her. His were not the eyes she remembered from high school glimpses. They were deeper now, carrying shadows and light all at once. "Hi," he said simply, his voice carrying a warmth that felt like an invitation. "I was wondering if you still do the book club here. My mother used to bring me when I was a kid." Evelyn nodded, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "We do. Thursday evenings. It's small, but nice." His smile appeared, not the wide grin of a boy showing off, but something quieter, genuine. "Then I guess I'll see you Thursday." And just like that, he began to slip into her carefully ordered life. The following Thursday, Daniel arrived early, carrying a book tucked under his arm. He listened more than he spoke, but when he did share his thoughts, they were thoughtful, tinged with humor that made the group lean in. Evelyn found herself watching him in small moments, the way he tapped the spine of his book when deep in thought, the way his eyes softened when someone spoke about a character's loneliness. He noticed her too, she could feel it, though neither of them named it aloud. As weeks slipped into each other, autumn deepened. Maplewood's annual fall festival transformed the town square with pumpkins, lanterns, and strings of lights that glowed against early evenings. Evelyn and Daniel walked there one Saturday after the library closed, both carrying cups of hot cider. The town was alive with children in costumes, couples holding hands, music floating from a small stage. She wasn't used to this kind of attention, walking beside someone who seemed to draw every glance. And yet, with him, she didn't feel overshadowed. Instead, she felt seen, as though in the crowd of Maplewood, his focus never drifted far from her. At one booth, he bought her a caramel apple, insisting she couldn't claim autumn without it. At another, they paused to watch lanterns released into the twilight sky, drifting upward like glowing wishes. Evelyn held her breath, caught in the beauty of it, and when she glanced sideways, Daniel was looking not at the lanterns, but at her. She blushed, and he smiled faintly, as if the lanterns had confirmed something unspoken between them. Still, there was something beneath his gentleness, a kind of restlessness she couldn't name. Sometimes, when his gaze drifted, she caught in it a trace of distance, as though he were carrying a story he wasn't ready to tell. She didn't push. Some people unfolded slowly, and she was willing to wait. Their connection grew through small moments, afternoons spent walking by the river, evenings of shared tea at the library after closing. He asked about her favorite novels. She told him how she believed stories were secret maps of the heart, guiding people toward one another if they paid attention. He laughed softly at that, not dismissively, but with a kind of awe. "You really believe that, don't you?" he asked one night, when they lingered by the library window, the glow of lamplight haloing around them. "I do," she said. "Stories don't just live on the page. They live in us. They remind us of what's possible, even when we forget." For a moment, something flickered in his eyes, something almost like longing. Then he reached for her hand, briefly, as if testing whether the world would allow it. The touch was gentle, almost reverent. She felt it echo in her chest long after he let go. As October slipped toward November, Maplewood grew quieter, its festival decorations packed away, the air colder. Evelyn and Daniel grew closer still, though always with a kind of carefulness, as if both were guarding something fragile. He never spoke much about the years he'd been away. When she asked, he smiled in that same thoughtful way and said, "Another story for another time." She accepted it, but the mystery lingered, like a book waiting to be opened. One evening, just before the first snow, Daniel asked her to walk with him to the old covered bridge at the edge of town. It was a place woven with local folklore, the kind of spot teenagers dared each other to visit at night, claiming it was haunted by stories of lost lovers. Evelyn had been there only once before, but with him, she felt no fear. The moon hung low, casting silver light on the river below. They stood there in the quiet, breath misting in the cold air. "Do you ever feel," he said slowly, "like life gives you a second chance you don't deserve?" She turned to him, surprised by the rawness in his voice. "I think life gives us what we're brave enough to reach for," she said softly. He looked at her then, as if her words had unlocked something inside him. Before she could lose the courage, she reached for his hand. This time, he didn't let go. They kissed there on the bridge, beneath the autumn moon, the kind of kiss that felt both like a beginning and a promise. For Evelyn, it was as if the quiet, hidden part of her heart had finally stepped into the light. For Daniel, it seemed like a return, like finding something he hadn't realized he'd been searching for all along. But the mystery of him remained. And as the weeks went on, Evelyn noticed small things. The way he sometimes disappeared for a day without explanation, the letters he kept folded in his coat pocket, the way he avoided certain questions with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. She didn't push. Love, she told herself, wasn't about solving someone. It was about walking beside them until they were ready to be known. The first snow arrived on Thanksgiving morning, blanketing Maplewood in quiet white. Evelyn woke to find a note tucked under her door, Daniel's handwriting, simple and hurried. "Meet me at the bridge tonight." Her heart raced as she bundled into her coat and scarf, stepping out into the hush of snow-covered streets. The bridge stood waiting, framed by the glow of lanterns someone had left along the path. Daniel was there, leaning against the railing, his breath clouding in the night air. He turned when she arrived, and something in his expression caught her off guard. A mixture of resolve and sorrow, as though he was standing on the edge of something unseen. I have to leave for a while, he said quietly, before she could speak. There are things I need to finish, things I should have told you but couldn't. But I want you to know, meeting you here, coming back to this town, it wasn't an accident. You've been my second chance. Her throat tightened. When will you be back? He hesitated, then reached into his pocket and pressed something into her hand. It was a folded letter, sealed with a small wax stamp. When the time is right, you'll know. Until then, keep this safe. Before she could ask more, he leaned in and kissed her again, snowflakes catching in his hair, his touch lingering like warmth against winter's cold. And then, just as suddenly as he had returned to Maplewood, he was gone, footsteps fading into the night. Evelyn stood on the bridge, the letter clutched to her chest, snow drifting down like pages of an unwritten story. She didn't open it. Not yet. Some stories, she believed, had to wait for their moment. And though her heart ached with uncertainty, it also carried hope. The kind that whispers of love that bends but does not break, of mysteries that one day unfold. Maplewood moved on, as small towns always do. But for Evelyn, every golden leaf, every lantern in the sky, every snowy bridge was a reminder. Some love stories don't end, they simply pause, waiting for the right page to turn.